September 2020 update for Wellington region. We don't need to make this long. Having said that, if you want to ask questions or if you want to have a discussion, because this is a very interesting market indeed, and so if you have questions or you want to have a discussion, then by all means fire away with questions, but otherwise we will get into it. Basically, the market is absolutely crazy. It is red hot. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I've been selling for 13 years. I've been investing for 22 years. I've never seen anything like that. And I was speaking to a client today. She would be, I don't know, maybe 70, been investing for 40, 45 years. She said the same thing. Never seen anything like this. So yeah, it's pretty unprecedented times, all right. So let's look at the numbers. Starting with the median sale price, carrying on the same theme, you can see here with the blue bar chart here, that's the monthly median sale prices, and the red is the 6-month moving average. So for a while there, I wasn't sure what was happening because we did see quite a drop-off here in the monthly results. But since then, we have seen a continued steady growth there. Just bear in mind, of course, that the monthly median does, suffer swings and roundabouts and ups and downs and things from month to month. But that, to me, looks like a fairly clear trend there. So that's September, August, July, June, May, is it? Yeah, May, June, July, August, September. Yep. So steady growth there, up 13% on a year ago, which is the same as we saw back in August. So still very strong price growth. Now remember, this is the whole region. It's not just Wellington City. So Kapiti and the Hutt Valley and Porou, and the Porou as well. So yeah, strong price growth throughout the region. No, that button's not working. That one there. There we go. So what about new listings? So you can see here that September 2020, 602 new listings in the month versus 567 in September 2019. So this is an increase compared to 12 months ago of 6%. In the previous 3 months, we saw increases of between 20 and 27%. So for June, July, and August, we had 20 to 27% growth in the number of new listings for that month compared to 12 months ago. So the increase compared to 12 months ago for the month of September is significantly lower than the previous 3 months. And if you look at the red line here, the moving average, you'll see that it is the lowest that it's been for 6 years, even though the last 4 months have been higher, more new listings than 12 months previous. And that is because in April, of course, here in lockdown, we had very, very few new listings. And so although since then, the number of new listings has been greater than 12 months prior for the month, the increase compared to 12 months ago has not yet made up for that terrific decrease. And hence the 6-month moving average is still lower than it's ever been. And so if we continue to see 10%, 20%, 30% more new listings in the month compared to 12 months ago in the next few months, then we will see that red line start to turn around and flatline or head upwards again. But who knows, maybe it's not going to be that way. Maybe the last 3 months, the 20, 25, 27% increases compared to 12 months prior was simply a catch-up of the listings that were not brought to the market during lockdown, and the vendors are just saying, well, now I'm confident that I can sell it. I was cautious for a bit, but I can see the market's carrying on, and indeed they will be pleased they didn't list it back then because prices have continued to go up, so they'll be rewarded for that in this instance. But so number of new listings continues to be higher compared to 12 months ago, but it hasn't yet made up for the shortage of new listings we had during lockdown. So in terms of number of sales, how many sales we're seeing for the month? 732 compared to 576. in September 2019. So that's a big increase. So going back to the previous slide, the number of new listings coming on was 6% more than the same month 12 months ago, but the number of sales is 27% more than the same month 12 months ago. So that would indicate that the buyer behavior is more aggressive. There's more sales taking place, even though the number of new listings is not keeping pace with that. And so hence that sort of helps explain why prices continue to rise, because demand continues to be very strong. Yeah, and so you can see here the last 4 months quite consistent. Indeed, I'm sure that if there was greater volumes of supply available to purchase, these numbers would probably be even higher still. And you can see there that the overall trend over the last 5 years or so has slowly been down. The number of sales has been gradually reducing. Is that because the demand is reducing? It would appear not, because otherwise prices would not be going up. So the main constraint, it would appear, that's having the number of sales reduce is just there's not enough for them to buy, and hence the number of selling is falling. How long is it taking to sell? So again, 27 days compared to 30 days in September 2019. So it continues to be strong, and you can see here we go, the effect of lockdown. So the days to sell blew out as a result of lockdown, but then ever since then, the number of days to sell has fallen back to the norms that we saw previously, and even at the low end of those norms, because as you can see here, 27, 29 days in the last few months, you know, that's at the low end that we've seen for the last few years. We have to go back to the really strong bull market that we saw in 2016 and 2017 before we get to significantly less than 30 days to sell property consistently in those months there. So certainly it's not being difficult to sell properties. Properties are selling well and selling quickly in Wellington. Number of weeks worth of stock on the market. And so you can see here 6 weeks worth of supply in September versus 8 weeks in September 2019. Obviously that's a drop. I mean, 8 weeks is already undersupplied. 6 weeks is terrifically undersupplied. And again, similar to the previous story, you have to go back quite some time to see the inventory below 6 weeks. So indeed, the lowest it ever got to was 5 weeks, and that was back towards the sort of late 2016, early 2017. Since then, it's never been lower than 6. So this is as low as it's been for 4.5 years or so. So the market is tight. All of these indicators are suggesting the same thing, which is the market is strong. Sorry, just realised someone else is waiting to come in. And you see the same story happening in the Trade Me listings. So just a continual reduction in the amount of stock we're seeing on the market. And you know, that story doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon, given the number of sales is greater than 12 months ago, and the number of new listings is not keeping pace with that sales growth. So yeah, it's a pretty sad looking story. It's pretty bleak out there for any of you who are buyers. Certainly buyers are having a very tough time indeed at the moment. So, you know, my I don't know, my heart goes out to you if you're trying to buy at the moment. Obviously, if you're just trying to buy an investment property, it's not the end of the world if you're not successful and you're failing out there. But if you're trying to buy your home or your first home especially, it's super hard work. And you can see here that the number of Trade Me listings we're seeing here in Wellington is almost as low as you've seen it for the last 6 years, beaten only by, you know, sort of eight months ago. Or that there must be, is that December? Yeah, I'm not sure which month that is because of my poor labelling. But yeah, it's got a long time since it's been this low, and we're in spring, and so it's meant to be going up, but it certainly doesn't seem to be at the moment. So yeah, pretty bizarre times indeed. So that, I think, is the end of my data. So in summary, new listings are up slightly on a year ago, but it still hasn't caught up on a 6-month average to the huge drop we saw as a result of lockdown. So maybe the new listings, the increase in new listings we're seeing is just a catch up from what didn't come on during lockdown. But sales volumes, on the other hand, are up significantly. Price growth as a result is still strong. Whoops, there's my little typo, still with one L. Duration to sell is short, and stock and inventory levels are very, very low. So it's super, super tough out there. Prices are rising, and if we compare prices now to any time sort of in recent history, it sort of seems hard to believe what properties are selling for. And it really is making my eyes water each week when I see, you know, what we or my colleagues are selling properties for. But I still believe, and this is why I put this thing in here about long-term fundamentals, buyers are still very keen to get into the market, even though prices are very high, because with interest rates at 2.5%, you can borrow money. You can borrow $1 million and it costs you $500 a week in interest. And if you compare that to rent, what can you rent for $500? So if someone can borrow $1 million and buy an entry level property, and they are paying no more than they are in rent, that's still an attractive proposition. Are prices going to ease back in the future? Goodness knows, only time will tell. But of course, history says that if they do come back, they only come back by small margins, because price falls are very sticky on the way down. Vendors are very reluctant to sell for less than their property was worth 6 months ago. And so therefore, if it does come back, it only tends to come back by very small amounts. And if you're waiting for that, you could miss out on 10%, 15%, another 20% growth. In the meantime, who knows? So my feedback to buyers out there is, if you find something that works for you, if you can afford it, if you've got stable income, don't hold back. Just carry on and continue buying. So does anyone want to have a chat about anything? Anyone got any questions or comments, or what of this and what about that, and so on? Anything at all, please fire away. Just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, Army, how you going?
Good, thanks. Hey, I just want to ask, this Wellington scenario that we have, would this reflect the nationwide scenario?
On the whole, broadly speaking, yes, it is. Yes, it is. In fact, last time I looked at the numbers, in particular the inventory, the levels around the country, which was a couple of months ago, what we saw is that the cities are very hot, but the regions are even hotter. So provincial locations, regional locations. Now, when I say hotter, I mean compared to what's normal. So in Wellington City, it's quite normal for a property to take 35 days to sell. It's quite normal on long-term averages for us to have 16 or 18 weeks worth of inventory on the market at any one time. The fact we've got 6 weeks versus 16 or 18 weeks means we're sort of 60% undersupplied, which is very, very tight. But if we go somewhere like the Wairarapa, or I don't know, Gisborne or other locations like that, the differential between a normal level of inventory on the market compared to what's now is even greater. So last time I checked, the Wairarapa, which typically would have 50 weeks worth of supply. So typically in a normal market, if you're in the Wairarapa, it takes quite a long time for a property to sell. There are 50 weeks worth of supply typically on the market in the Wairarapa at any time on long-term averages. Whereas a couple of months ago, at least when I looked, and I doubt it's changed, there were 6 weeks. So that is just, you know, from 50 weeks to 6 weeks worth of supply. That's 85, 88% undersupplied compared to what's normal. Perhaps this is a combination of a couple of things. Number one, the cities are now way less affordable than they were 5 years ago. And so those people who are worried about missing out on the market and want to get in some capacity, they've given up on the city. And so they think, okay, I'll buy something in Featherston, or I'll buy something in Carterton or Greytown or whatever. And so the demand that would otherwise be in the cities perhaps is being pushed out to the regions, and that's your typical ripple effect. But the other thing is, because as a result of lockdown, and again, this is just me educated guessing here, you got a bunch of people who now think, I don't have to be that close to the city, that close to work, because maybe I'm working every other week in the office and every other week I'm working at home. And so I'm not as attached to a very short commute. And I would rather have a nice house with a garden that I can look out over whilst I'm working at home and I'm spending more time at home. The other thing I think that's driving the market is you have got a bunch of people who previously were happy to not own, happy to be flexible, don't want to be tied down with commitments and responsibilities, but the lockdown has frightened them into thinking, actually, I do want my own little corner of the world that I can control. So it's like a nesting kind of effect, and people are wanting to buy a property that were happy previously not to. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, it's the same story pretty much nationwide. Certainly as of a couple of months ago, we had the lowest levels of supply across the whole of the country than we've seen for 13 years. I think if I get my numbers right, if we compare, for example, when we went into the recession in the GFC at the end of 2007, start of 2008, we had something like 56 or 57,000 listings available for sale on the websites at that time, 57,000 across the whole country. Whereas going into the recession as a result of COVID, we had something like 17,000. So 57,000 versus 17,000. And in that time, the population has grown. So it just goes to show the drastic shortage of supply that we're seeing at the moment compared to what's normal. Yeah, the same is the case in the regions, as I say, even more extreme compared to what's normal over there. So that's an awesome question, Army. Hope that helped and is of interest. If you want advice on your property situation, yeah, just shout out. Happy to help anytime. In the meantime, stay safe, be well out there, and good luck